What is good, Raider Nation? It's your boy Raider Alex, back with yet another video for you guys. Anybody that's new to the channel, you guys love Raider related content just like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. That being said, let's jump right into the topic of this video. The wait is almost over. It is finally draft week. A lot of news I wanted to talk about today. First we got Jayden Daniels went on the Shannon Sharp podcast last night, and they asked him about the possibility of him potentially getting drafted by the Raiders.
We're talking about the Raiders. AP was the DC when you was at Arizona State. What would that be like to be reunited with a guy that you was with at Arizona State?
I don't know how they're gonna pull it off. Just AP, man. AP, just as a human being, he the right coach for that team. Just him and the intensity that it brings. He challenged people. He challenged me at 18. So I know if I was to go to the Raiders, I'm not saying I'm gonna go there or I want to go there. I want to go wherever my name called. But if I was to go to the Raiders, I know he go as soon as I step foot, he gonna challenge me. He don't care how high I was drafted, none of that. He gonna challenge me every day.
So I was definitely expecting them to ask Jayden Daniels about this at some point. And Jayden Daniels said all the right things, but he definitely had a big smile when he was asked about this, and when he just mentioned the fact of how he thinks Antonio Pierce is the right head coach for this football team. So I definitely get the sensation that Jayden Daniels wants to be here, but like he said, he doesn't know how we're gonna do that. And really this just leads to my next point, and that is the report that I saw, and that is from Tony Pauline. This latest report indicates, according to his sources, that Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce wants to trade up for LSU quarterback Jayden Daniels, and that Antonio Pierce views him as a day one starter and a franchise quarterback. He also stated the fact that the Raiders general manager Tom Telesco does not really want to do this just because of the cost of what it would take to trade up for Jayden Daniels. Tony Pauline just adds the fact that Telesco is not against making moves in other spots though in the draft and moving up potentially, but he doesn't think he would make that bold of a move to move up 10 spots. And he also just echoed other reports that we've been seeing throughout the past week or so, and that's the fact that the Raiders potentially selecting Washington quarterback Michael Penix Jr. at number 13 is really viewed as a legitimate possibility around NFL media league circles. This was reported by Vic Tafur from The Athletic and ESPN's Matt Miller. Now, when it comes to this report, when it comes to Tony Pauline, I think we definitely got to take it with a little bit of grain of salt, just because in the past, he hasn't gotten things fully correct. Not too long ago, he had a report that he claimed that the Raiders are going to make a big trade for Justin Fields, and obviously that never happened. Just a couple days after that, he was announced that he got traded to the Steelers. So like I said, definitely take it with a grain of salt. I do definitely think that Antonio Pierce wants Jayden Daniels, but I also don't think that he's just so hell-bent and so in love with the idea of drafting Jayden Daniels that the Raiders would give up an extreme amount of draft capital to do so. And even if we did, I think Antonio Pierce will continue with the same message that he gave to us earlier in the offseason, and that's the fact that he wants competition at every level of the roster, and that includes the quarterback spot. So of course he would love to have him, but I don't necessarily see it being like Jayden Daniels is locked to be a day one starter. Jayden Daniels said it in the podcast himself. Antonio Pierce would most definitely challenge him, just like he did at Arizona State. And if anything, just giving off the vibes of what Antonio Pierce has given us, I wouldn't doubt if he challenged him a little bit more, because he knows you draft a guy that high, you're expecting big things from him. But the talent level of a guy like Jayden Daniels, I personally think he could be special at the next level. And you definitely don't do a move like that without believing that he could be the franchise quarterback for your team moving forward. But really the one thing I don't like from this report is I've seen some people have been trying to kind of twist this report into the fact that it may appear that there's like some type of disagreement and some sort of tension between Antonio Pierce, who wants Jayden Daniels, and between general manager Tom Telesco, who's just really not willing to trade up for him. Personally, I'm not buying this at all. I think Telesco will be aggressive this year in the draft, especially since too, you could argue the fact that this was the main reason why he got hired at the general manager position. Reports earlier in the offseason indicated that that was really one of the main reasons why he was hired over Champ Kelly, and that is just due to the fact that Mark Davis liked his plan on how to address the quarterback position. He was able to do that with the Chargers, and hopefully he can replicate that with us. Tom Telesco spoke this morning, headed into the draft. He didn't say too much, you know, your typical things that, you know, he's willing to move up if he has to. He's got a plan in place to be aggressive if he needs to. He's also willing to stand pat, trade back. It really just depends on what happens come draft night. You know, so it's definitely interesting. I mean, I really wonder how aggressive Tom Telesco would get this year in the draft. You know, I think ultimately the Raiders will be in the mix for Jayden Daniels, but that is only if Washington does not select them at the 2nd overall pick. I do not think Washington will trade away their pick at number 2. So even if we try to, I think they're declining that all day long. Personally, I think the Commanders brought in offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury for a reason, and that was to develop a young quarterback. And now really the only question left is, who do they select? Do they select Jayden Daniels? Do they select Drake May? Do they select JJ McCarthy, who has been getting a lot of hype as of late? Or do they even get aggressive and try to move up one spot and select Caleb Williams at the number 1 overall pick? That's really the biggest question mark. If Jayden Daniels does not get selected at 2, then that's where I think the Raiders could really make a jump for him. If he falls to 3 or 4, that's where I think we can definitely make a phone call and try to trade it from, even though it'll still probably be a little bit difficult, as we are not the only team that needs a quarterback. Minnesota desperately needs one as well, and they have better draft capital as it stands at this moment. So really our only shot for Jayden Daniels is if he falls outside of the top 2, but just ultimately we'll have to wait and see what happens come draft night. And if we don't get Jayden Daniels, I think another great alternative would be Michael Penix Jr., especially if he falls to number 13. That'd be a really good scenario. You don't have to give up any draft capital, and you also got a quarterback who has the potential to be your franchise quarterback moving forward. And really, I think there's also a chance we may have to move up for him, especially if JJ McCarthy goes early. And personally, man, if we had to move up to like the number 9 overall spot to secure Michael Penix Jr., I wouldn't be mad at it either. We wouldn't have to give up a whole lot of draft capital, especially compared to if you traded up to the top 3. But as I mentioned earlier, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what Tom Telesco does. If you just look at his draft history with the Chargers, he really hasn't been somebody that's been that aggressive in the first round when it comes to making trades. In his 10 years with the Chargers, he only moved up in the first round 1 time, and in that scenario he only moved up 2 spots in the first round. So if he did make a move like this to move up to number 3 for Jayden Daniels, this would be the most aggressive move he has made in his tenure as NFL general manager. But at the same time, owner Mark Davis did give him his full blessing to do whatever he sees necessary when it comes to trading up in the first round. He definitely seems aggressive to me, but he's not gonna give up way too much, in my opinion. If I was a betting man, I think we're probably going to go Michael Penix Jr. in the first round or an offensive tackle. But I still hope that there's a small chance that we may pull off the impossible and somehow, some way get Jayden Daniels. He's my favorite quarterback of the draft. But ultimately, I think we're in a good spot. If we can't get him, like I said, Michael Penix Jr. would be a great alternative for us moving forward. But we are only about 3 days left until the NFL draft. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more news coming out. So if you haven't done so, make sure to subscribe. We're going to be doing a lot of content on the draft, so stay tuned for that. But with that being said, Raider Nation, that's all for you guys in today's video. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you think will ultimately end up happening this week? Let me know. But with that being said, that's all for you guys in today's video. Anybody that's new to the channel, you guys love Raider related content just like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. That being said, I will see you guys in the next one.